Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Perfectly Mentored. I'm your host, Jason Portnoy. My guest today, if you're not on Instagram, then you probably haven't seen him. But if you are, you've seen him everywhere. He's a beast when it comes to marketing and branding himself. David Meltzer is the co-founder of Sports One Marketing and formerly served as the CEO of a renowned Leigh Steinberg sports and entertainment agency, which was the inspiration for the Jerry Maguire movie. His life's mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. I love that. This simple yet powerful mission has led him on an incredible journey to provide one thing: value. In all his content and communication, that's exactly what you get. As part of that mission, over the past 20 years, he's been providing free weekly trainings to empower others and empower others to be happy. He is a 3-time international best-selling author, a top 100 business coach, the executive producer of Entrepreneur's #1 digital business show, Elevator Pitch, and the host of a top entrepreneur podcast, The Playbook. His new book, Game Time Decision Making, was a #1 release. David has been recognized by Variety Magazine as their Sports Humanitarian of the Year, awarded the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, and most recently at the Super Bowl, David was honored as the most valuable philanthropist. David, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for doing this.
The intro like that, man, is my interview over? That was
incredible. I love when we're reading people's bios and watching their reactions as they're reading it, as I'm reading it to them. They love it.
I was given the COVID over my mouth. Hey, can you shut the door? I can hear it.
So for people who, don't know who you are, and we just read a really nice bio. For people who don't know who you are, tell them a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got started on this mission to help 1 billion people.
Yeah, it all started just my own relationship with money and understanding the blend of the monetary world, the world of money buys happiness and love, with the faithful world of what's important, which is happiness. And so I grew up with a single mom, 6 kids, a mom who was an incredible mom, right? Raised all of us. My siblings all went to the Ivy Leagues, scholarships, summa cum laude. She taught us all types of unbelievable things, but the only time I wasn't happy as a 5, 6, 7-year-old was when we were out of money, right? The car broke down, just typical financial stresses. I catch my mom crying. So in my mind, money bought happiness and love. And so I was going to direct all my attention and give all my intention to making a lot of money so I could be happy and make my mom happy by buying her a house and a car. And so my entire life until pretty much 2006, so from 1973 as a 5-year-old to 2006, everything was directed at money, and everything I did reaffirmed the fact that money bought happiness and love. So I would be jealous of the kids that had parents that were married, that had nice cars and nice houses. I would be jealous if they went to, I would just assume they had no problems in their life, right? I would buy into, they were born on third base, but I thought they hit a home run. And, when I was directed, I wanted first to be a professional football player. And that's where I, learned what has been the basis of my pursuit, which is consistent and persistent behavior and enjoying it. So I wasn't born with much athletic talent, but for me to get a scholarship to play football in college gave me a real foundation that I could do whatever I wanted to do. And imagine if I applied and did something that I was good at, how good I could be. So over my first play in college, my Christian Okoye, I was lying on my back, literally thinking doctor, lawyer, failure, which was my mom's favorite slogan, right? All the time. So I was going to be a doctor. Was told by my older brother that doctors at 18, I was 18 years old, told doctors spend a lot of time in hospitals. I hated hospitals, but more importantly, he taught me a very valuable lesson. And I know this is a mentoring show, so write this down. Be more interested than interesting. I still can't imagine that I was pre-med at a really academic school, and I had no idea at 18 years old that doctors had to be in hospitals. I thought sports doctors were on the field in training rooms. I was just so ignorant. And I have changed my life because I'm always looking at what I can learn and for lessons. And my life is directed towards lessons. And my philosophy and perspective of happiness is towards lessons as well. But I went to law school, reverse engineered the law school by the law school that had the profession that paid the most money. So I was a maritime lawyer, graduated law school, I had 2 job offers, one to be a maritime lawyer, 6-figure job to buy my mom a house and a car. But then I made a critical decision. I decided to sell legal research in the internet. And this is 1992. So the internet was not like the internet today. It was DOS and it was slow, 9600 baud modems. You carry your computer around on a luggage cart. It was called an XT computer. So just to give some of the younger people a little bit of background, I told my mom, what should I do? And she instantly said, you got to be a real lawyer. The internet's a fad. If you take this sales job, you'll always regret it. Lesson number 2 for everyone in mentoring, just because somebody loves you doesn't mean they give you good advice. And I see on the entrepreneurial side, the life side, education side, family side, so many people are pressured in to voting for what other people want from them. And then they not only resent the people that were looking out for their best interests because they vote for what they want, but they start voting for what they don't want, and they resent themselves, and then they end up unhappy. So at 24 years old, I voted for what I wanted. I put my heart, soul, I put that football consistent and persistent behavior behind it. I became a millionaire 9 months out of law school. Once again, reaffirming, I bought my mom a house and a car. Money buys love and happiness. In my mind, I was my mom's favorite child, seeking attention. Everybody, even when everything was trading to me, I was giving to get. My philosophy in life was the more that I gave, the more I got. But there was always a condition or a judgment, right? I wanted acknowledgement, recognition. I wanted big gratitude from my siblings. I wanted respect, all these things. Well, I ended up in 95, our company sold for $3.4 billion in 1995, setting me over to the Silicon Valley in a trajectory to, by the time I was 30, be a multimillionaire. I worked in the wireless proxy service space, learned how to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, and then ended up being CEO of the world's first smartphone. If you would have asked me at 30 what the secret to life and happiness was, it was money buys love and happiness, and the more you give, the more you get. That's how I lived from literally 5 years old until 30. Nobody told me any differently. Everybody sucked up to me. As long as I got and took them places and bought them meals and drinks and fun, nobody ever said anything negative to me. My mom was happy. My wife was happy. But at 30 years old, my dad, who'd been estranged from my life since I was 10. When I was 5, my dad left, but he still was my hero. He was rich, but he was a deadbeat dad. He didn't give any child support. My mom was humble, never said a negative thing about my dad. I'd sit in the back of the station wagon with a packed dinner in a paper bag, telling my mom, why can't you be more like dad? She never said anything negative. But at 10, he made a really bad mistake. He forgot my birthday. That was bad enough, but he lied to me and said he didn't forget my birthday, but he instead didn't believe in birthdays. So at 10 years old, I realized my dad was a liar. And a cheater and a back-end seller, overseller, manipulator. I went from hero to zero. That my dad, I was just struggling. So at 30, he gave me a birthday present. Amazing birthday present. He gave me a sport coat, first one in 20 years. It fit perfectly. I started to cry. I'm looking at it, and then I opened it up, and he had torn out all the lining. He turned out all the pockets of the jacket. I freaked out. I called him completely pissed. Right? I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm like, what are you doing? Punishing me on my 30th birthday? Why would you do that? He said, son, I'm not punishing you. I love you. I'm just worried you're just like me. I went crazy. I'm like, I'm nothing like you, dude. You're a liar, cheater, manipulator. I'm nothing like you. He said, why would you give me a jacket I can't wear? He said, hang it in the closet. Let it sit there until you die. I want you buried in that jacket. I want you to remember you can't take anything with you when you're gone. Money does not buy love and happiness, Dave. I know you're just like me. I don't want you to make the same mistakes as me. You're not going to be the richest man in the cemetery. I'm doing this because I care about you. I understand. I wasn't ready to hear it. I said, F you, goodbye, hung up on him. 2006 came, like I said. Nobody except for my dad had ever even, broached the subject that I was on the wrong track. Every once in a while, my wife and my mom would say I was lost because everything had to do with money to me, everything. And 2006, my best friend went golfing with me. At this time, I was running Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment, most notable sports agency in the world. Lee Steinberg, most people know he made the movie Jerry Maguire about him. I had everything, man. I could go Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, Masters, Kentucky Derby. I was hanging around the biggest celebrities, athletes, and entertainers, doing crazy stuff. And I took my friend golfing. I've known him since the 4th grade. And I asked him, how come you don't hang out with me? Let's go to the Super Bowl, do something fun. He said, Dave, I don't like who you hang out with. And furthermore, I don't like what you're doing. I looked at him. I said, come on, man, I'm not doing that stuff. I'm not, just come on. We have a good time. He said, David, you could lie to me, but don't lie to yourself. First person in almost, literally 32 years that told me anything negative. I was Midas to everyone. It took my best friend to tell me the truth. 2 weeks later, my life changed. I, in 2006, came home from the Grammy Awards. I lied to my wife, told her I was going to a business meeting. I went to the Grammy Awards with Little John, the rapper. I actually got to sing off the stage at the House of Blues before that. Changed in the car, came home intoxicated and high, and my wife was waiting for me at 5:30 in the morning. And for the first time, she told me she wasn't happy. Told me that I better take stock in who I was and what I wanted to become, or not only was she leaving, but I was going to be dead. And that was her opinion. Once again, not ready to hear it. I told her to F off. How dare her be, so selfish. And I've given her so much. How dare she talk to me that way? Who does she think she is? Blah, blah, blah. I went to bed, woke up in the same mindset of ego, thinking about how I could take all my money and all her happiness and love away. Even my kids, I was thinking, I'll show her. How dare she talk to me this way? And then that's when my life changed. I looked over in the closet and I saw that jacket. And I saw that jacket, and I still to this day remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just like my dad. I am a liar. I'm a cheater, a back-end seller, and literally changed my life. I started outlining my values in my life. I started writing my first book, Connected to Goodness. I decided I was going to live with gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and inspiration. And it wasn't an overnight process, right? My wife had to put up with a lot of crap and help me along the way. The funny thing about me, unlike anyone else, is 2 years after I bottomed out, I lost everything. So in 2008, I lost over $100 million, and I was prepared for it. Just like I'm even more prepared in 2020, not only to help myself, but more importantly, to help other people, right? I went on a mission 14 years ago. I've been doing trainings on Fridays for over 20 years. Money doesn't buy happiness or love, but it's important. I teach people to shop for the right things that'll make them happy with their money, to make a lot of money, to help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. I teach people not to give to get, but to get so they can give. I've completely shifted the paradigm. And so I've been doing free trainings for over 20 years, teaching people, because my mission in life is over 1 billion people to be happy. So I need to find 1,000 people like you, Jason, that will empower 1,000 people and teach them to empower 1,000. Because 1,000 times 1,000 is 1,000,000, 1,000,000 times 1,000 is 1,000,000,000. I know it sounds like a crazy idea until you do the math. And when I tell people like you, hey man, do you think in your lifetime you can get to the 1,000 times 1,000 in your life? Right? Just get me there and help me get to a collective consciousness of 1 billion people. Because if we can make 1 billion people happy on earth, this earth will change. Abundance will reign, more than enough of everything for everyone. And, it's the biggest lesson that I can teach. And it's not an overnight lesson. That's why I spend every single Friday teaching people to teach other people the simple ways of what to do and think and say and believe and feel in order to be happy.
Well, we're on our way to do it with this podcast. I'll do my best to help you with that. Given the climate we're in, right, with unemployment high or people at home and people feeling a little bit stuck, I guess, or finding it hard to stay positive, how can they be taking advantage of the situation, or how can they get unstuck?
Yeah, so I like stuck. That means you're trying to get out, trying to grow. You're not trying to accelerate. So it's a good thing that if you feel stuck, but what you want to focus in on is your capabilities, right? Your capabilities are your skills, your knowledge, and your desire. So what you want to do is look at what's making money today and align your skills to see what's synergistic and supplementary to what's making money today. Take your capabilities, skills, knowledge, and desire, and see how they're aligned with what's stabilized today, right? And then also look at your skills, which ones you want to develop, some skills that you may need or want, knowledge that you need or want, or some areas of improvement with fear, and go ahead and practice to see where can I take advantage in the future? What has been oversold today? What do I see will rebound? What opportunities exist with e-commerce taking the forefront of all business, how everything's going virtual and electronic, from sports to finance to, it's just accelerate what's going to happen over the next 2 decades. It's just happened in 2 months. And so there's a lot of opportunities. When we have disruption in an expansive environment, it's the most opportunistic time in the world. More people were millionaires during the Depression, and more companies were developed in 2008 than any other time. In a closed environment, like an engine, when there's disruption, it can break down. But in an expansive environment like we're in, it's a huge opportunity. And so you want to position yourself with your capabilities every day. And you got to do, 5 things real quick. 1, take inventory of your values, personal, experiential, giving and receiving values. 2, learn to ask and attract. What does that mean? Learn to ask a series of questions of everyone in person, on the phone, via email and media, radio, print, TV, and social media, on how you can be of service or value. And 2, most importantly, display radical humility. Ask people, do you know anyone that can help me? And guess what? That leaves them and everybody in their network. Most people know at least 1,000 people. In 1 month, you can get to hundreds of thousands of people asking for help. 3, be a student of your calendar. Studying means pay attention to and give attention to the coincidentals that you want. Look at everything with the lens of productivity, how much value you're providing, accessibility, how are you accessing what you want, and how accessible are you to others, and gratitude. And if you study your calendar, what you have planned, what you don't have planned, the white space, empty space, etc., and your sleep, you will get so much out of the day. Number 4, do it now. 100% of the things you do now get done. The difference between most successful people and most people that don't get what they want done is that people that get things done are more successful. So you might as well do things now. If you can't do it now, then go put it in your calendar for tomorrow, study it the next day, prioritize it by what's most important, and you will be more efficient, effective, and statistically successful than you can ever imagine. And then finally, the secret to happiness, right? That enjoyment of the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential comes from practicing ending fear. And that takes the ferocious Buddha. You got to stop and identify what you're afraid of. You got to put your whole ferociousness into not only identifying it, but stopping feeling that way. Drop down to center, breathe like a Buddha, get clarity, and then roll in the right direction. When you're in ego-based consciousness, fear-based consciousness, your mind, body, and soul are on fire. That means you have to stop, drop, and roll. Your mom told you on fire, stop, drop, and roll. So be a ferocious Buddha, do those 5 things, and your capabilities will align, synergistic and supplementary capabilities, to all types of opportunities that you'll manifest, and you'll be in a much better position as we evolve through this pandemic.
I love it. And especially the first point with sales, I don't think people ask enough. I think people are afraid to ask. Which is crazy because every guest I ever got on this podcast, people are like, how'd you get them? I'm like, I asked. They're like, you asked him? I'm like, yeah. I just
people
asked.
ask me and they're like even tentative, and then they're like, oh my God, you said yes. I'm like, yeah, I just keep it to 20 minutes. Right?
Yeah.
Really? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. You don't get unless you ask.
Yeah. It's amazing that people don't do it.
Quick story for everyone. One of my favorite mentoring stories. Home Depot, they have 3 checkouts: consumer, contractor, right? For gardener, and the self-checkout. 3-to-1 aggregate. The self-checkout sells more warranties for appliances, barbecues, all the stuff they sell, those warranties. 3-to-1, the self-checkout sells it against.
Because they ask?
Yeah, because the machine asks every time. 3-to-1.
That's crazy.
Think about those tip machines, those new Stripe machines. The tips are up 1,200% even before COVID because the machine asked for a tip.
We're seeing that on e-commerce. For e-commerce sites, there are some customers or clients of ours that put a tip now on Shopify. You could ask for it, and they're getting like 5% of the shoppers are putting a tip. That's easy money that goes right to the company. Look, with the entrepreneurs I speak to, there's always something that comes up, and if I'm going to be honest, I feel it at times as well. It's imposter syndrome. I'm sure you have a great deal of experience helping people with imposter syndrome. So I'll throw the ball in your court. How can someone who's experiencing imposter syndrome get over that?
Yeah, so it's an energetic thing, right? Imposter syndrome is an occurrence when you're not giving as much value, perceived value, as you're receiving. So you feel like an imposter, right? If you truly, like I do every morning, envision myself giving away $100 bills and asking for 20 back, I wouldn't feel like an imposter, right? I'd feel like an abundant, giving philanthropist, right? So people aren't challenging themselves, even when they are philanthropic and giving, and they create value margins that are not equal for themselves, right? They're being abundant. they haven't done the work. And so they don't carry the energy. So they don't feel their own worthiness. They feel guilty. Right now, I have one of the top executive business coaching practices in the world, and my billionaire clients and executive clients and even entrepreneurial clients, biggest complaint they have now is they feel guilty because they have imposter syndrome. And I was like, look, I'll get rid of your guilt. You cannot be rich. You cannot be poor enough to make someone rich, but you can be rich enough to make as many people as you want to be rich. So don't feel guilty. As long as you know and can quantify the value you're perceiving, you are the real deal. You are worthy of everything that you receive. And if you don't feel that, then go ahead and practice and do the work, quantify the value that you're giving, make sure it's more than what you're receiving, and guarantee it. I only work month to month with people, and I guarantee profit. I am a profit center to everyone I work with. I don't care about subjective value. I mean, some of you may have seen, my little Barney song that I sing about subjective value, right? That's the problem with most people that have imposter syndrome. They're like, I love you, you love me, nobody makes any money. And then you feel like an imposter. If you quantify things and you're a profit center, why would you feel like an imposter? If I gave you $100, Jason, for being on this show and you gave me $20 back, I'd feel good about it. I wouldn't feel like an imposter, that's for sure.
So, I mean, what are some, let's go there. I guess part of it is your thought process and positive mindset, right? What are some good techniques to maintain a positive mindset, especially now when people are just open up the news and it's always doom and gloom? What techniques do you have for maintaining a positive mindset?
4 things you control. You control your thoughts. So if you have negative thoughts, cancel. You control they'll continue from your conscious to your subconscious to your unconscious. If you have negative thoughts, judgments, conditions, just cancel them. And remember, mindset is a practice. It's like playing golf. The more you practice your mindset, the better you get. And your mindset, what you give meaning to everything you see. So cancel any negative thoughts. 2, you have control of what you feel. So if you feel bad, go do something good for someone else. It instantly shifts your energy. So go pick up trash, go put back a cart, go call your mom and ask if you can help her. Whatever it is, do a good deed, be kind. It'll make you feel better. You have control of your way you think, you get control of what you feel. Then you also have control of what you say and what you hear. So don't inundate yourself with arbitrary numbers and capricious facts that you think you need to know. If you need stable data in order to effectuate your synergistic and supplementary capabilities to the business that you're looking at or relationships, then go seek your answers. Go find them. Don't leave the news on. I don't care what station it is. Don't be pounded with negative things, and don't talk it. Don't give life or blow air into balloons that you don't want to ride. Blow the air in the balloons that you want to ride. Vote for what you want. Do not speak negativity into existence. I did a video about when I, thought my wife was a nag, I had a nag as a wife. When I thought my wife was a princess, I have a princess as a wife. I look for the superpowers in everything and everyone. I'm my own chief betterment officer. I'm always looking to see how I can make things better. That's very simple. And then finally, we have control of our actions. So be a ferocious Buddha. And if you're about to take action in ego, stop, drop, and roll. Be ferocious about stopping and identifying the need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be separate, the need to be inferior, the need to be superior, anxious, angry, resentful, all these guilty, all these fearful, all these ego. Just stop, drop, and roll. You take control of the 4 things that you have control of. I promise you, your mindset will be growing in that enjoyment, the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. It'll improve just like your it every day.
You talk about managing the ego and the importance of it. Does that pretty much sum it up on how to manage the ego?
Yeah, that's exactly how it's a practice. Ending fear is managing the ego. And the first step is to identify, right? A lot of people, they can't even understand when they're talking about managing the ego. Like, come on, Jason, why don't you just see the glass is half full? It's not that easy. First, you got to see what's causing you to think the glass isn't half full. The needs of the ego, how your personal relationship, where you're wasting energy. I'll tell you, everybody out there right now, if I could take and give you all the time that in resources and money that you've lost worrying about things that never happened, we all would be so much better off, right? That's one simple way. So you got to learn, number 1, to identify it, 2, to be ferocious and stop it, 3, to drop down to Buddha and read and breathe right through your nose, out through your mouth, how to find center. All these things take years. I've been doing it 14 years, right? And I always joke around. My wife's like, wow, you've changed so much. I said, yeah, but every day I'm afraid. Every day I'm angry. Every day I'm frustrated. Every day I'm resentful. Every day I'm offended. But the difference is it used to last years, and then it went to months, then it went to weeks, then it went to days, then it went to hours, then it went to minutes. Now I'm trying to get it down to moments, right? Just a few moments a day I feel angry or frustrated or guilty or resentful or separate or inferior or any of those ego-based. I'm just getting better at it.
You know, I'd be doing a disservice to the listeners by not asking. You know, you used to work for you used to run a big sports agency. What did you learn from there in terms of negotiations? And what tips do you have for the listeners in order to become better negotiators? Because, I mean, you've negotiated some huge contracts, right? So what can we learn?
Five things. The one thing that most people don't realize in negotiation, the most important thing you can work on is your credibility. The minute you oversell, back end sell, lie, cheat, and manipulate, every other thing that you're saying true, the other side is looking the skepticism, the holes, the shortages, the voids, you're creating resistance. So number one thing in negotiation is everything you say, you need to make sure is credible. Two, emotional attachment. People bound emotion for logical reasons. So you got to be able to be more interested than interesting, find out what people like, what they don't like, what they're doing today, what they like about it, what they don't like. What if I was able to do this? Then three, math. Most people don't do the math in a negotiation. Lee Steinberg's one of the best negotiators in the world. I've been blessed to learn from him. The reason is he's a genius, first of all, probably on the spectrum, but he does the math. What he could do is he puts and quantifies, here's the reasons it's going to work for both of us. Here's the impacts it's going to have on both of us. And here's the capabilities that we all share in order to benefit from it. 4, here's the overall impact of the agreement. And then 5, last but not least, you only use the features and benefits in a negotiation to support the credibility, emotional attachment, reasons, impacts, and capability in the overall agreement. They're not what's upfront. Most 90% of the people that negotiate are all features and benefit, Barney negotiators, subjective value. I stick to credibility, emotional attachment, reasons, impacts, and capability for an overall quantitative impact called profit for both parties. Can you see any reason you won't want to move forward? Everybody's winning in my deals. I just have to do a lot more work to show and prove and be credible enough and show the math of how everybody's going to win.
How can someone work on their credibility?
So just practice not overselling, back end selling, lying, and cheap manipulating. Because I see people do, look, I am someone that oversold tons in my career, and you just got to start catching yourself and go, why did I, exaggerate about that? Because the minute they catch you on that one, it had nothing to do with the sale, right? It was like, I've been to 49 states and I've really only been to 46. Gary V and I talked about that, right? Because his dad was like my younger brother. His dad used to get super pissed at Gary when he'd be like, I got 62 baseball cards. And his dad's like, no, you got 52, right? Don't exaggerate. And my brother would always get pissed at me. And Gary and I both have learned that credibility factor that, if there's 52 cards, then say there's 52 cards. No one's going to care. You know what I mean? And I see a lot of people do that in the self-branding space. They're standing in front of cars they don't own and houses they don't own and telling people things that they don't need to exaggerate. Like, people are giving good ideas, like motivational ideas. You don't have to stand in front of a house you don't own if you have a good idea. I got this thing today that I loved. It was like the definition of an influencer. It was on the internet today. I didn't write it, but I loved it. It said, 1, how to become an influencer. 1, put the camera down. 2, pick something you want to learn about more than anyone else in history. 3, spend the next 10 years learning about it. 4, pick up the camera again. 5, tell people what you learned. And 6, leave them with their effing jaws down to the floor. That's an influencer, right? Not sitting there over-exaggerating, lying, copying what somebody else said.
Especially nowadays when people are getting smart and they're starting to pay attention, realize that those things are all rented out for the most part anyways.
Truth always vibrates the fastest.
I want to end with a couple of questions. Number 1 here is, what makes a good leader in your mind? Like, what are some great leadership traits?
Like, for me, a great leader is someone that can inspire. So what they can do is They know that they're connected to the greatest light, love, and lessons of all time, and they can take that light, love, and lesson and appreciate it with gratitude, add value to it, and give it away so that somebody else adds value to it and gives it away. So if things can come through me in an abundant way, more than enough of everything for everyone, to you, Jason, and you're able to take my inspiration and add value to it and give it away to someone else, then I'm a leader.
Got it. Number two, you seem that you're a man of routine. So how important are routines? And if you're just getting started, I mean, you could go over your routine if you want, but it may be hard for someone who's just starting to get started. What are some of the must-have essentials to a routine, or the must-do?
You should have 2 routines. I'm not going to go through mine because mine's crazy. You can go watch a video and watch it. But I have 2 routines. One is the normal routine. That's when it's not Memorial Day, you don't have a bachelor party, you're not hungover, whatever your issues are. You have your normal routine and you should stick to it. Then you have your adaptable routine. The adaptable routine is based off of how you built your normal routine, and that's off of values. So the key to having a routine is to take consistent inventory every day of your personal, experiential, giving, and receiving value. So the underlying adaptable routine for me is a minimum of an hour a day on my health, a minimum of 30 minutes a day with my wife, a minimum of 30 minutes a day with my son, who's 10, a minimum of 2 minutes a day with my 3 teenage daughters, 21, 18, and 16, and a minimum of 1 minute a day with my mom, to tell her that I'm happy, healthy, love her, and appreciate her, knowing those are the only 4 things a parent ever needs to know or wants to know about their kids. And then 10 minutes minimum a day being a student of my calendar, paying attention to, giving intention to the coincidences I want in my life, what I have planned, what I don't have planned, in my sleep. If I do those things on an adaptable routine, I'm going to be able to execute and do all the things that I said, be productive, accelerate, enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential. Too many people try to put a round peg in a square hole, and they're like, I gotta wake up at 4 o'clock every day, meditate for 20 minutes, 10 minutes to get ready, an hour at the gym. That's my normal routine. And I probably hit it, now I hit it more because I'm at home 10 weeks in a row. But, I travel 200 days. So I probably only hit it half of the days of the year. But I'm 100% on either the adaptable routine or my set routine.
Well, then, final question. Did you see the Last Dance documentary?
Of course. Yeah. John Weinbach, not only a friend, was on my podcast, the producer.
Awesome. So I loved it. And to me, that era of sports is my favorite. I love 90s sports. I'm a Reggie Miller fan, so I relived some heartbreak there for a second. But what did you learn from that documentary, or what can listeners learn from that documentary when it comes to business and life in general?
I think from Phil Jackson, the Zen master, what was a common denominator through Michael Jordan's life and career was faith. Although he's reached levels of abundance and success on the court, on the bank account, right? None of those at all were Michael Jordan's thermostat. His thermostat was enjoying the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of his own potential. Sometimes in his life, they doubted his potential. Sometimes they over-exaggerated his potential, but he was always laser focused and having faith that he had what it took to enjoy every day his own potential. And that's why he is a legend. And when Phil Jackson at the end of The Last Dance says, thank you for having faith, that was the whole series. And it doesn't mean I don't like money, dude. I make a lot of money to help a lot of people have a lot of fun. I'm one of the greatest, biggest motivational, inspirational entrepreneurs. I will help anybody because money will allow you to shop for what you want. But if you have a blend, black card faith compared to a black card money, you are golden for the rest of your life. And so that's the lesson that I teach in my mission on Fridays, to have that enjoyment of the consistent, persistent pursuit and to find your faith in what your potential is.
I love it. And I do think you need both, right? Michael Jordan had the faith and no one outworked him, right? And that's what allowed him, people who exaggerated his potential, he went out to prove them right. And the people who doubted him, he went out to prove them wrong. So that's why I feel like so many of these motivational speakers or so many motivational events, the people are attracted to it and they love the feeling of being motivated, but they hate doing anything about it and they don't do any work. And I think what you preach is actually a little bit of both, which is, be inspired because that's important. You have to be motivated, but you have to execute.
Yeah, it's motivation will get you up and get you back up, but inspiration will get you there. Be in spirit, live a life of continual growth, acceleration, understand segmentation, mental aptitude and aptitude to get that altitude that you want. And there's room for both, right? There's always a blend. I think, I'm a king of blending all the different worlds together and taking the pieces and parts that are necessary when they're necessary. I always say pain is just an indicator: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial pain. It's an indicator that you have a lesson to learn. So be excited about learning the lesson and move on.
For the people who want to reach out to you, and he is accessible, that's how we got him on the podcast. For people who want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Well, you can text me 949-298-2905. You can go to my website, dmeltzer.com. You can email me, david@dmeltzer.com, or David Meltzer, all the platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, David Meltzer. You can Google me, reach out, but that's the best way. Please join me. It's free on Fridays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, free training. If you miss it, the replays are all over the place: YouTube, my podcast, The Playbook, all those places. Please join my mission to empower over 1 billion people just simply to be happy.
Love it. And we're going to do our part to help spread your word and get you close to 1 billion people with this podcast. David, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. Happy holidays. I'll see you soon.
Take care.
Right on.